Zohran Mamdani, future mayor of New York, has just identified the real victims of 9/11.
I want to use this moment to speak to the Muslims of the city. I want to speak to the memory of my aunt, who stopped taking the subway after September 11th because she did not feel safe in her hijab. I want to speak to the Muslim city worker, whether they teach in our schools or walk the beat for the NYPD. New Yorkers who all make daily sacrifices on behalf of this city only to see their leaders spit in their face. I want to speak to every child who grows up in New York marked as the other, who is randomly selected in a way that rarely feels random, who feels that they carry a stain that can never quite be cleaned. Growing up in the shadow of 9/11, I have known what it means to live with an undercurrent of suspicion. I will always remember the disdain I faced, the way my name could immediately become Muhammad, and how I could return to my city only to be asked in a double-mirrored room at the airport if I had any plan of attacking it. And since I was very young, I have known that I was spared the worst of it. I was never pressured to be an informant like a classmate of mine. I have never had the word terrorist spray painted on my garage.
The real victims, you see. This goes on for like 6 minutes. I can't say I encourage you to watch the whole thing, but he just goes on and on and on. Really, it all could have been summed up with a very, very brief Norm Macdonald bit. Norm doing a joke, Zohran Mamdani doing it for real.
Well, I can't say my friend's name, but he said his biggest fear is that ISIS or some terrorist group like that would get a hold of a dirty bomb and explode it over a major city within the United States and kill tens of millions of people. Because then the blowback against innocent Muslims would be absolutely terrible.
Yeah, that's horrific.
That's true.
Okay, let's do some jokes.
It's true. That bit, that joke, is now a campaign ad from the future mayor of New York. Folks, I remember 9/11 when Muslims, in the name of Islam, flew airplanes into buildings and killed 3,000 New Yorkers. And I remember the worst part of that day was that my aunt felt a little more self-conscious in her hijab. Isn't that the real tragedy of 9/11, wouldn't you say? Sometimes she wouldn't even take the subway anymore. Isn't that it? It's like, let's think about the real victims. Now, Zohran says that he is looked at with suspicion. When he was a young man, he would be questioned sometimes at airports. Look, I've been randomly selected at airports too. I don't know. It's a young fighting age men, I guess. Maybe it's because I'm a little swarthy myself. The Sicilians, we are a little ethnically ambiguous. Well, Zohran says it was outrageous. Why on earth would any authority suspect me of being a violent extremist, a jihadi? Oh, wait, hold on. Here's a picture of Zohran Mamdani with an unindicted co-conspirator of the 1993 World Trade Center bombing. There he is, all smiles, giggles, so happy. He's with 75-year-old Imam Siraj Wahaj. He posted this recently, too. This isn't even like they dug up some picture from 100 years ago. It's part of the campaign. He's doing this now. He said this guy is a leader and pillar of the Muslim community in Brooklyn. Right now, go to kickoff.com/Knowles. It has been over 16 years since the federal minimum wage hit $7.25, and a lot has changed since then. Companies are twice as productive as they were back then, but our paychecks, not so much. Meanwhile, 1 in 5 of us can't even get approved for a basic credit card. The whole system feels rigged, and we just want what our parents had, the ability to afford an apartment, maybe buy a car, or eventually own a house. That is exactly why Kickoff exists. You can start building your credit right now for just $1 for your first month. Just select AutoPay. You will never have to stress about missing a payment. The whole thing takes only a few minutes to sign up from your phone. No credit check, no hidden fees, no interest. Users with credit under 600 grow an average of 84 points in their first year with on-time payments. It is no wonder that Kickoff is the #1 credit builder on the App Store with over 1 million users and hundreds of thousands of positive reviews. It's really important to have good credit for all those parts of the American dream that we look at, buying a house, buying a car. Start building credit with Kickoff today. Get your first month for as little as $1. Good credit pays a lot of dividends in the long run. It is 80% off the normal price when you go to getkickoff.com/Knowles, Canada WLAS. That is kickoff without the C, KIKOFF.com/Knowles. Must sign up via kickoff.com/Knowles to activate offer. Other offer applies to new Kickoff customers, first month only. Subject to approval, offer subject to change. Average first-year credit score impact of plus 84 points, Vantage score 3.0 between January 2023 January 2024 for Kickoff credit account users who started with a score below 600, who paid on time, who had no delinquencies or collections added to their credit profile during that period. Late payments may negatively impact your credit score, and individual results may vary. Okay, so when Zohran Mamdani says the dream of every Muslim New Yorker is just to be looked at like everyone else, I don't think that's quite fair, right? Because the dream, at least of that New Yorker, that Muslim New Yorker, was to blow up the World Trade Center. So not an original observation. A number of people have made this point. Hold on, folks. Look, I have a decent degree of respect for Islam. I actually do. And you know why? Because in many, many ways, Muslims are more grounded than secular leftists, okay? But are we really seriously arguing that there is no distinction between Islam and, say, Christianity? That there's no conflict between Islam and the West? You know, Islam becomes a political issue in the West, in what would have broadly been called Christian civilization much, much earlier. But even just in the West, like Europe, it becomes an issue in 732. Islam is founded in 620? So within about 100 years of the founding of Islam in Arabia, Islam makes it all the way to Poitiers, 150 miles outside of Paris, because the Muslims almost took over all of Europe. And the only reason that they didn't is because Charlemagne's grandpa, Charles Martel, implausibly beat them back. Poitiers. Lepanto, when the Muslims almost took over again, and because of a strong wind and perhaps the intercession of Our Lady, as I believe, because of the prayers of Christendom, the Muslims were turned back. The Battle of Vienna. How about the invasion of Sicily? How about the invasion of Ostia? How about the conquest of Iberia for 800 years? How about the attack on New York? And on and on and on. We're supposed to pretend. I'm pretty moderate and open-minded on the issue of Islam. But you're going to tell me that there is no conflict whatsoever between our civilization and Islam? Come on, buddy. That's crazy. So the question is, for Mamdani, is he some kind of devout Muslim? Well, here's some evidence. This comes from Mamdani's father, who was a professor at Princeton.
America is the genesis of what we call settler colonialism. And the American model was exported all around the world. Abraham Lincoln generalized the solution of reservations. They herded American Indians into separate territories. For the Nazis, this was the inspiration. Hitler realized two things. One, that genocide was doable. It is possible to do genocide. That's what Hitler realized. Second thing Hitler realized is that you don't have to have a common citizenship. You can differentiate between people. The Nuremberg laws were patterned after American laws. Anyway, the U.S. put Indians in reservations. The U.S. invented the model.
So America is the cause of all evils in the world. The founders of settler colonialism. That's news to me. I didn't know. I thought there were some earlier practices of settler colonialism before the United States. And the Nazis actually learned from Americans. And the Americans are the ones who taught Hitler that genocide was possible. Genocide, which has, of course, occurred for all of human history everywhere. Genocide, which occurs in the Bible, not to mention in historical sources everywhere throughout all of history. To me, I know people are going to be tempted to say, oh, this is a Muslim, this is a jihadi using his powers of taqiyya to take over. I don't really buy it. There's some of that. I mean, in the Islamic revolutions of the 20th century, there was some use of leftist slogans to lead to revolution and rebellions. But I don't know, to me, when I look at a Zohran Mamdani, it seems to me more like rote leftism, which is anti-American and which takes in some of the identity politics. Hence you get the Islamic stuff or the Arab stuff or whatever, Ugandan. But to me, it's just rote leftism. And it's got a little Muslim spice on top. You know, the potato chip is leftism, and then the little sour cream and onion flavoring, that's the Islam for Mamdani. Either are a little troublesome, especially in New York. But for the people who say, no, God, he's a lot more dangerous than you think, Michael. He's not just a leftist, he's a jihadi. My response to that is, I don't know, I think leftism's pretty dangerous. I agree with The Atlantic when they say we have an epidemic of leftist terror going on right now. Looking at recent events and even longer standing events, it seems to me that while Islam has posed a 1,400-year threat to Western civilization, leftism is a more pressing threat right now. And I'll be talking about that tomorrow, by the way. I'm going to be testifying before the United States Senate, the Judiciary Subcommittee on the Constitution. So you can tune in. I'm sure it'll be on C-SPAN or something like that. That will be tomorrow because the Democrats and the media, though I repeat myself, want to deny that left-wing terrorism exists at all. So we're going to be correcting the record tomorrow. That was a great clip. Now stop, ring the bell, subscribe. We'll see you next time.